The papyrus, putting on my table every month. I don't wanna be sad. Don't even try to hide it. No, I don't wanna lose it. And you say how it is, it's so inviting. The papyrus, we're all so alive. The papyrus.
We bring you the Papyrus TV news update. You're welcome. The headlines: Magistrate resigns in Rivers State, rejects military-style administration. Senator warns of renewed Boko Haram threat in Borno. Court throws out challenge to Olugbon's selection in Oyo State. Christian groups in Plateau State plan mass protest over killings. Amnesty International condemns Plateau massacre as death toll rises. NASA warns of nationwide strike over earned allowance, accuses FG of secret deal with ASU. Sole administrator of Rivers State demands NBA return 300 million naira after conference pullout. The details. The political turmoil in Rivers State has claimed another institutional casualty as Chief Magistrate Ejike King George tendered his resignation from the state judiciary, citing strong discomfort with the recent shift in governance structure. In a letter dated April 11, 2025, and addressed to the Chief Judge through the Secretary of the Rivers State Judicial Service Commission, George criticized the imposition of what he described as a quasi-military administration following the federal government's emergency takeover. His resignation comes in the wake of President Bola Tinubu's March 18 declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, which led to the suspension of Governor Siminalayi Fubara, his deputy, Professor Ngozi Odu, and the entire State House of Assembly. Tinubu subsequently appointed Vice Admiral Ibokete Ibas, retired, as the sole administrator of the state. This difficult and regrettable decision is informed largely by my discomfort with the recent appointment of a quasi-military administration to run the affairs of a modern state like ours, George wrote, denouncing the direction of governance as alien and antithetical to values of the legal profession. With 22 years in legal practice, including 16 years as a magistrate in the Rivers State Judiciary under various democratic administrations, George warned that remaining in his position would amount to tacit and naive acquiescence to a system he fundamentally opposes. His resignation underscores the widening institutional pushback against federal intervention in the state's civil administration. Meanwhile, amid rising insecurity in Borno State, Senator Mohammed Monguno, representing Borno North, has raised an alarm over the resurgence of Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast, calling on the federal government to act swiftly and decisively. Speaking to News Central after a high-level security strategy session in Maiduguri, Monguno emphasized the need for urgent redirection of security resources previously diverted to the northwest. Governance is fundamentally about guaranteeing peace, security, and good order. A government that fails in this core responsibility should not remain in office a moment longer than necessary, he declared, sharply criticizing the government's current posture on security in the region. According to Monguno, the meeting brought together top-tier security officials and regional stakeholders to assess current lapses and forge a unified approach to reclaim peace in the northeast. He stressed that Borno North in particular remains heavily impacted by Boko Haram's violent campaign and cannot afford any security neglect. The senator's comments echo growing concerns among northeastern leaders who fear that the lull in focus on the region has emboldened militants to regroup and relaunch attacks. Monguno reiterated that national security must remain the bedrock of governance, and failure to protect citizens represents a fundamental breach of the social contract. Continuing, the legal battle surrounding the installation of Oba Francis Olushola Alao as the Olugbon of Orile Igbo has been decisively ended by the Oyo State High Court sitting in Ibadan. In a ruling delivered on Monday, April 7, Justice K.A. Adedoku dismissed the case filed by 4 members of the Akimbola family, citing lack of jurisdiction and procedural flaws. The plaintiffs had challenged the legitimacy of Oba Alao's selection and appointment, alleging irregularities in the traditional selection process. However, the court found that the Surulere local government, the statutory authority empowered to approve and supervise traditional leadership appointments, was not listed as a party in the case, rendering the suit defective. Justice Adedokun further ruled that the claimants lacked local standi, meaning they did not have the legal right to bring the action. The court's decision effectively reaffirms Oba Alao's legitimacy and brings an end to a contentious dispute that has stirred tension within the local traditional institution. Local analysts say the ruling may serve as a precedent for similar chieftaincy disputes in the state, emphasizing strict adherence to due process and jurisdictional competence. In another development, outrage and sorrow continue to sweep across Plateau State as Christian leaders prepare for a mass peace protest following a fresh wave of deadly attacks that have left over 80 villagers dead in the past 2 weeks alone. The second peace walk against continuous killings, scheduled for Easter Monday, April 21, 2025, is being organized by the Gideon and Fumi Paramalam Peace Foundation in collaboration with the Christian Association of Nigeria (CAN) and various denominational heads. According to Dr. Gideon Paramalam, president of the foundation and a protest planning committee member, the rally will begin at PRTV roundabout in Jos at 9 a.m. and end at the new government house in Little Ray Field, where protest leaders will deliver a formal petition to President Bola Tinubu through Governor Caleb Manasseh Mutfwang. Between March 27 and April 2 alone, nearly 80 people were killed in Boko's local government area, said Paramalam, adding that the carnage in Bassa and other regions reflects a broader national security failure. Participants are being asked to wear black, mourning, red to protest bloodshed, and white, peaceful resistance during Easter services and the protests. CAN hopes the symbolic walk will awaken the conscience of national leaders and pressure the government to finally confront the long-running crisis in Plateau and the Middle Belt region. In similar report, Zike village in Plateau State became the site of another mass atrocity late Sunday night, as at least 51 villagers were killed in what Amnesty International has described as a horrific and senseless massacre, intensifying scrutiny of Nigeria's worsening security crisis. The attackers, armed with guns and machetes, reportedly moved from house to house, setting homes ablaze and slaughtering residents, many of them children and the elderly who could not escape. When dawn broke, survivors were met with a nightmare: charred remains, blood-soaked compounds, and the silence of entire families wiped out. Amnesty International, in a strongly worded statement on Monday, lambasted the Nigerian government's inadequate response, declaring that the security lapses enabling such attacks must be urgently investigated. This is not just a breakdown in law and order. It is a breakdown in humanity, the group said. The tragedy in Zike comes just 2 weeks after another deadly raid claimed 52 lives in a nearby community, raising alarms over the frequency and brazenness of the violence. According to Amnesty's data, between December 2023 and February 2024, over 1,336 people were killed in Plateau State alone, including 533 women, 263 children, and 540 men, with more than 29,554 residents displaced. Many survivors of the latest massacre are now sheltering in makeshift camps with little to no government assistance. Despite assurances from President Bola Tinubu about deploying new security strategies, rights groups argue that the relentless bloodshed tells a different story. Whatever new measures are being implemented, They are clearly not working, Amnesty said, demanding an independent investigation, accountability for perpetrators, and immediate protection for vulnerable rural communities. Furthermore, the Non-Academic Staff Union of Educational and Associated Institutions, NASU, has issued a stark warning to the federal government over an alleged exclusive deal with the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, regarding the long-delayed 50 billion naira earned allowance. At a high-level meeting of its universities and inter-university centers trade group in Abuja, NASU leaders decried what they described as backdoor arrangements that risk reigniting industrial unrest in the country's fragile tertiary education sector. NASU's General Secretary, Prince Peters Adeyemi, alleged that only ASU was invited to a recent stakeholder meeting on the earned allowance, raising fears that the government intends to allocate the entire 50 billion naira to academic staff.
The papyrus, put it on my table every month. I don't